Oh, my baby. They're going off to Lucas Moynahan's house to see if Beans' dad is there. Gosh, I wonder how they're feeling. How would you be feeling? I think I'd be excitedly nervous. More nervous. Let's find out. I wonder if Anne and Louisa feel as nervous as I do, Beans thought. What would she do if Dad was in Lucas Moynahan's house? What would happen then? How would they rescue him? Oak House was indeed well hidden. Miles out of town, you had to turn up an unmarked side track, which was very easy to miss, overgrown as it was with brambles and bushes which grew higher than Beans's waist. It was only thanks to the bus driver's instructions that Beans and her friends didn't miss the turning altogether. The entangled leaves on the trees above them were an all-enveloping cloak, deadening the light from the afternoon sun and flattening sound. They could hear one or two birds chirping and lazy buzzing sounds from distant insects, but even those noises were quiet and subdued. Do you think Lucas came back here? Anne whispered. Louisa shrugged as Beans said, "Shh." They carried on walking. The ground under their feet was baked hard, making the going very tiring. Beans studied the path for tyre marks or other potential clues, but the rock-solid earth held nothing but the faintest impressions. Keep your eyes and ears open for clues, everyone, Beans whispered. Shh, Anne said. What's that noise? They all stood absolutely still and listened. It's a car. A car's coming, said Beans. Get back, Louisa ordered. It might be Lucas. The track lay before and behind them. To the sides lay brambles and bushes and stinging nettles, with dense trees behind that. They each stood there, none of them keen to scramble through the thick undergrowth. The unmistakable sound of a car engine was getting closer. Beans, Louisa, Anne said desperately. What do we do? We've got no choice, Beans said. Come on. They waded through the bushes and brambles before squatting down out of sight. I can't believe I'm doing this, Louisa muttered. I dread to think what I'm standing in. Shh! The other two girls glared at her. The car came closer and closer. From around the bend just up ahead, the blue Ford Escort appeared unexpectedly quickly and drove straight towards them. There, in the driver's seat, was Lucas Moynahan, but Lucas wasn't the only one in the car. Beans jumped up. Dad! Dad! She screamed as the car roared past them. What? Anne said. My dad's in that car! Beans started running after the Escort, which was speeding away from them. Two men sat in the back seat. I'll start that sentence again. Two men sat in the back seat, and one of them was her dad. He turned his head, his expression frantic, as he mouthed words Beans couldn't hear. Dad! Dad was in there! Oh, so close! Suddenly, this car screeched to a halt. Beans froze. Beans! Beans, come back! Louisa ran forward and grabbed her by the arm. One of the Escort doors opened. Lucas Moynahan got out of the car. Come back, you two, Anne cried out. They're after us. Beans hesitated only for a second. She pelted back to Anne, and all three of them dived for cover into the bushes, scrambling to get as far away from Lucas as possible. Come back here! They heard Lucas's furious call after them. If anything, his voice made them scramble faster and further away from him. Beans pointed to the right, and they veered off in that direction, roots and brambles tearing at their clothes, scratching at their faces. Keep still, everyone, Louisa hissed. They each froze. The crunch of Lucas's angry footsteps through the undergrowth made Beans's stomach churn with fright. Beans, they're after you. Don't let them catch you. Don't trust. Beans' dad's words were abruptly stifled. Beans raised her head. Dad, she mouthed. She wanted to shout out to him, run to him, a feeling so strong she could almost reach out and touch it. But she couldn't. She couldn't. Beans stared through the brambles and bushes as if all she had to do was stare hard enough and they would disappear out of her way and she would see her father. The footsteps were getting closer. All three girls lowered their heads. Anne put her hands over her ears. Lucas Moynahan might be gaining on them, but she didn't have to listen to it. A few more steps and he'll be tripping over us, Beans thought desperately. Lucas, get back here! The furious voice of Lucas's accomplice commanded. Don't be an idiot! Those girls are somewhere around here, Lucas called back. Beans held her breath. Lucas was close enough for her to reach out and touch his foot. Leave them! We don't need them! The accomplice shouted impatiently. We need her. She can persuade her father to give us what we want. Then we can blow, Lucas called back. We should have grabbed her in the beginning when I said so. I've had enough of both of them messing me about. I'd like to wring that girl's neck. Beans's breath caught in her throat. She stared at Lucas's feet, her eyes, her whole body filling with terror. They were after her as well now. We'll get her later. Come on, we've got to go, the accomplice said. Don't worry, Beatrice Conran. I'll get you, Lucas hissed to himself. Slowly, reluctantly, Lucas headed back to his car. The girls heard angry mutterings from the two kidnappers, but were too far away to make out the words. Anne, Louisa and Beans didn't move. They didn't even breathe until they heard the car engine start up and the car being driven away. Louisa moved to stand up. Not yet, Beans whispered quickly. It might be a trick. One of them might still be there, waiting for us to raise our heads. It's all right for you two. I've got a skirt on, Louisa grumbled. What on earth did you wear a skirt for? Anne hissed. Because no one told me I'd be crawling on my hands and knees through the countryside. That's why, Louisa snapped, her voice still a whisper. I hate getting dirty. At least you didn't have a twig sticking up your left nostril the entire time, whilst Lucas Moynahan was 2 centimetres away from you, Anne interrupted. Shh, Beans ordered. They waited a couple of minutes but could hear nothing but birds chirping and insects buzzing. From somewhere far away, a dog barked. Anne, you crawl off over there, Beans pointed to the left. I'll crawl over to the right. Then I'll stand up and see if they've gone. Why can't we stick together? Louisa protested. Because if they are still here, we'll be easier to catch if we stick together. If we split up, then they're unlikely to get all 3 of us, Beans whispered. The 1 or 2 remaining can go straight to the police and tell Detective Warner what happened. Reluctantly, Louisa agreed that the plan made sense. They separated, Anne crawling off on her stomach in one direction, Beans heading out on the other. Beans watched the second hand of her watch count down another minute before she slowly raised her head, then stood up, ready to sprint off at the first sign of Lucas or the other kidnapper. There was no one there. Beans took a good look around. Anne, Louisa, you can stand up now, we're alone. Beans didn't know whether to be glad or disappointed. But at least her dad was all right. Beans hugged that knowledge to her like a winter coat. Dad had spoken to her. He was all right so far. Slowly the other 2 girls stood up. Oh, just look at my skirt and blouse. They're ruined, Louisa howled as she looked down at the green and brown stains on her clothes. Oh, never mind your clothes, Anne dismissed. Those stains will wash out. I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking about what my mum and dad are going to say when they see them, Louisa retorted. Mum's going to go through the roof and hit the chimney stack. Anne walked over to Beans, ignoring Louisa. That was definitely your dad, Beans. I saw him too, she said. I've had enough of playing amateur spy, Louise marched over to her friends. It's time we got the police in on this. I agree, Beans said. Now that we all know Lucas Moynahan is one of the kidnappers, the police should have no trouble from here on in. That's the end of chapter 9. The next chapter is about a man called Sergeant Paxman. So we'll find out what happens next when maybe the girls go to the police. How very exciting. That was a very frightening episode, I think. I don't know how I'd have coped with that. Hiding in bushes right next to a man who's trying to catch me. Oh, it's very frightening. But at least they're all right. It ended up okay, that chapter. Now, I hope you've had a great day and you're working hard, trying your best with the work we've sent. That's very important, especially keeping up with your reading and your maths. That's really, really important. But remember too to have some fun, have some time out, be nice to the people that you are living at home with, and remember that you and they are very, very, very precious. I will see you soon. I can't wait to see you properly, but until then, bye for now.